Hi guys, welcome. If you're new here, my name's Nikki. I'm a beekeeper and I make beekeeping videos. If that's something you like watching, hit the subscribe button. If you're one of my returning subscribers, thank you so much for coming back and listening to what I have to say. I really appreciate it. This video is one I'm going to do today by request, and that is talk about all the things that you need to purchase for your first year of beekeeping. The very first thing you're going to need to purchase that I don't have here is a hive. I just didn't feel like dragging one all the way out here. You have a couple different options on hives. I have already done a video on the different types of hives, and I'll link that down below and you can check that out to help you decide which one you think is right for you. I do go over the pros and cons of all the different types of hives. I personally use 10 frame Langstroth hives. If I had to do it all over again, I might go with 8 frame. However, 10 frame is the most common and it's just the easiest to get things, so I stick with that one. The next thing that you're going to want to invest in is your protective equipment. And it may take some trial and error for you to find what you like and what works for you. That's what happened with me, and as a result, I kind of have a collection of protective equipment for beekeeping. The first one I'll show you is what you're most often going to see me beekeeping in, and that is this jacket right here. I get asked a ton of questions about this jacket. This is a Forest Beekeeping Supply ventilated jacket. It is in desperate need of washing, but I will worry about that later. I don't often feel like I need to have a full suit on, especially after you get some experience under your belt. So I don't prefer a full suit as long as my bees are in a good mood. So I use this most of the time. I love this jacket. It's ventilated, it's lightweight. I have never had a bee get into it. I've never been stung in the upper body through it. And the veil has great visibility. The only seam in this veil is in the back. So there's really nothing on this veil that obstructs your vision or view in any way. So I would highly recommend this jacket. It's not sponsored. Forest Beekeeping Supply has no idea who I am, I'm sure, but I love this jacket. The next option that you have is to purchase a full beekeeping suit, and I do have one, and this is what I started with. I think a full suit is a good idea for new beekeepers because the more secure that you feel when you're out with your bees, the safer that you're going to be doing your inspections. So I would not deter you from buying a full suit as a new beekeeper. This one has a fencing veil here. It is not my choice of veil. I have a lot of difficulty keeping fencing veils off of my face. So as for myself, I don't recommend fencing veils, but I know a lot of people who love them and who beekeep just fine with them. I do find that if you wear like a baseball cap under it, it tends to help a little bit, but I still have problems with it. I rarely will wear this anymore. My daughter does wear it sometimes. I think the last time I wore the full suit was when I was removing yellow jackets last year. And yellow jackets are not honeybees, so I did wear this suit for them. You can purchase just a veil by itself. No matter how my bees are behaving, no matter how gentle they are, I will always have a veil on. I think I got this from a friend as a gift in like a beekeeping kit. I don't know if I've ever worn this or not. I personally don't like the feel of just the veil on. I don't feel secure in it. I think it's difficult to keep bees out of it. So I don't like to just wear a veil. But there are times when even the ventilated jacket is too much, it's too hot, or I don't feel like I need it. So I did find this jacket on Amazon. I have a couple of these in different sizes. This is just a super, super lightweight cotton jacket with a veil attached to it. It does have elastic at the waist and elastic on the wrists. So I have never had a bee get into this. It's really, really inexpensive. I think maybe 20 or 25 bucks. I would not recommend this jacket though if you are using it to protect yourself from being stung. It is such a lightweight cotton that you can get stung easily through this. So I would not recommend it if you really are trying to protect yourself from stings. However, if you are like me and you sometimes only want to wear a veil, but you don't like the way just a veil feels, or you don't feel secure in it, I would highly recommend these. I use this all the time. Lastly, on the PPE, and there are different options in this, guys, I should add. You can get just pants, you can get separates, there's so many other options. This is just what I have on hand to show you guys, so I just want you to keep that in mind. Next, I have my gloves. These are from last year. These are well worn. Of all of my beekeeping supplies, gloves are probably the thing that I replace the most often. I'll usually go through probably 2 pair per spring and summer. My new ones have not come in yet. These are typical beekeeping gloves. I think these are goat skin, and they have a little section of ventilation there, and they do have an elastic at the bottom. Really good gloves. I would recommend when you're purchasing gloves to get them a little on the tighter side. So as you use these, you will sweat in them and they will stretch out a little bit. They'll get propolis and wax and honey stuck on them, and they will become a little bit difficult to maneuver in. So definitely get them a little more snug at the beginning because they will loosen up. I like the feel of snug gloves on my hands, which is why I replace mine at least 1 or 2 times usually in the bee season. So definitely a good pair of gloves. I know beekeepers who use latex gloves or kitchen gloves, and that works well for them. This is just what I use. The next thing that you're gonna wanna have, and that's not just product, but you're gonna wanna have a really good plan for mite control. Varroa mites are horrible for bees. Beekeepers, we fight them. It's a non-stop battle, and they can be pretty devastating. So before you get your first package, you're going to want to do some research into mite control and treating them, and have kind of a solid plan of what you're going to do going into purchasing that package or nuke. You don't want to wait until you get your bees and kind of scramble at the last minute. So this is one area that I definitely plan ahead of time. When it comes to Varroa mites, you're going to want 2 things. You're going to want a way to check Varroa mite levels in your hive. There are 2 methods to do that. I use an alcohol wash. This is a Varroa Easy Check. It's just a couple bucks. I use this. I purchased this a couple years ago. I'd highly recommend them. You can make your own if you'd like. The second method, so there's another method to check for Varroa mites, and that's using powdered sugar. I don't do that method, but if you're interested in learning about it or seeing how it's done, I'll try to find another creator who made a video on it and link that down in the description so you can check that out. A lot of those can be homemade products to do the powdered sugar checks with. And after you have the method and the tools you're going to need to check for Varroa mites, you're going to need to treat them. And there's several different ways you can treat for mites. I use different methods. So here I have some Formic Pro. These are strips that go into the hive. And I also do OA, so I do oxalic acid as well. And what I use typically depends on the mite load in the hive, the time of year that it is, whether there's brood, and the temperature. So I will adjust my treatment methods depending on the need of the bees and the time of the year. Next we have a bee smoker. So you could get just a really inexpensive smoker. They do have kind of some high-tech ones if you want to get that, and if you are okay with kind of springing for the more high-dollar smokers, but you don't need to. This is a basic smoker and they work just fine. And I did do a video on how I light one and the type of fuel and kindling that I use, and I'll link that down below too. If you don't want to use smoke, you can use sugar syrup, like a 1-to-1 syrup during your inspections. And if you're going to do that, just get a really nice water bottle and have that on hand. I always have a bottle of 1-to-1 with me during my inspections because you just don't know when you're going to need something or if you're going to use it. So I would invest in a pretty decent little spray bottle as well. Some of the tools that you're going to need when you're working in your hive are, you're going to need a brush. I don't use my brush very often, but you do use it from time to time, so I'd recommend getting one. They're really inexpensive. And a lot of these things, guys, that I'm talking about, you can get them in kits that come with all of these different things. So you don't have to go and look for them individually if you don't want to. You are going to need a hive tool. This is my favorite, well-loved J-hook hive tool. There is a standard hive tool as well that you can purchase. I have one somewhere. I promise you, whenever I film a video, I never find what I need. But a basic hive tool is something that you're going to need to kind of manipulate your frames. The hive and frames are kind of glued together with a substance called propolis, so they can be hard to pull in and out, and you're going to need a tool to help you do that. If you have any issues with dexterity, or maybe as you're starting out you're a little fearful kind of reaching in and grabbing your frames, this is a really good tool to do that with. So I don't use this very often, but I have used it. So this is just a tool if you need to, you can use to kind of grab frames and pick them up out of the hives. So I just wanted to show you this. I would recommend getting some type of caddy like this, or a bucket to take out to do your inspections. I'll typically throw all of my hive tools in here. I will throw in my smoker fuel, my kindling, and I have miscellaneous things like lighters. Lots of lighters in here. I have extra syringes if I'm doing an OA treatment in the hives. This I would recommend that you also get one of. This is a queen clip. This is a way to isolate your queen from the rest of the hive, and you may need to do that from time to time. This is $1 or $2, I think, and you can get them individually, or you can get them in 6 to 10 packs, 6 or 12 packs, I think. So definitely make sure you have a queen clip on hand. But these little caddies are just great to put everything into and be able to go out into your bee yard, work with your bees, and not have to kind of trek back and forth and get things that you may have missed or forgotten. And if you're like me, my bees are a pretty good distance from my house, so it's just not convenient to have to go back and forth. So I'd recommend getting something like this to help you out. You will need a way to feed your bees. So here I have, I use Boardman feeders. You can get in-hive feeders. There's a couple different things. I'll try to maybe link resources to the different methods that I don't use down in the description box. But this is what I use. This holds your 1-to-1 or your 2-to-1 sugar syrup and kind of sits in the front of the hive at the entrance, or can sit on top of the hive covered by an additional empty deep box. They are made like this, or you can make them yourself out of little mason jars that cut holes and just kind of poke holes up here in the top of it. So these are great to have. One thing you're not going to see in this video, and that I would not recommend, but I get asked about it all the time, is extractors. I would not recommend purchasing an extractor for honey on your first year of beekeeping. A lot of beekeepers do not get honey their first year, and those that do typically get a pretty small amount. Honey extractors are hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and that's a huge investment to make, to not need it that first year. In addition to that, a lot of beekeepers unfortunately aren't able to overwinter their bees, so their bees don't survive winter, and they may have to start fresh again the following year. And from time to time you'll have somebody that after their first year decides that beekeeping is just not something that they can sustain long term, and they decide not to continue. So before you make an investment in a honey extractor, I would make sure that this is something you're going to stick with and that you are going to need. Now, as we get into extracting this year, I will show you the different methods of extracting, because like I said, you can extract honey without an extractor, and that's what I'd recommend doing if you get any honey in your first year. So this is just my quick overview of things that you're going to need or will be helpful in that first year of beekeeping for you. If there's anything that I forgot, because I always think of something, you know, the next day or a couple hours after I film, and I'm like, oh, I should have put that in. If you see anything that I left out, put that down in the comment section below. If there's anything that I didn't mention that really helped you when you first started out, put that down there as well. I love to hear about that. Well guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.